Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Town Manager Download, a podcast about local government and the town of Shrewsbury. I'm Kevin Mizikar, Town Manager of the town of Shrewsbury, and as always, I'm joined by Taylor Galusha, Communications Coordinator for the town. We have a special episode today, very bittersweet. This will be Taylor's last episode here on the Download because she's moving on to a wonderful career opportunity with the town of Lexington as their communications director. So as Taylor's parting special treat, she's going to share insights into early career navigation in local government, which we think is going to be a really exciting opportunity to help those folks who are maybe just transitioning out of their bachelor's or master's degree and looking for a job in local government. And Taylor has just lived that for the last 4+ years. So who better to provide that level of insight than Taylor on the Town Manager Download. So let's do it.
Yay.
So first, let's start. Tell us about the job opportunity that you have, and we'll talk about the things you've worked on here, and then we'll go into early career navigation.
Yeah, so I'm super excited, but like you said, it's very bittersweet, but I'll be moving on to Lexington as their Director of Communications, which seemed like the next step for me career-wise when I do all my like future planning and those type of things. So it'll be a little bit of a step up from here of just being able to be at that higher, more strategic level. I'll have a staff person working with me to do more of the like hands-on content development, but I'm excited to kind of keep growing, learn new things, learn how to manage someone, learn how to think more at that strategic level on a daily basis. Here I kind of teeter back and forth between needing to get content developed and published and also trying to take those more strategic approaches. So I'm excited to have that opportunity to continue to grow professionally in the communications area for local government, but also like learn how to work with new people in a new place and kind of scarily start over, but I have all the tools I need. So
I mean, it sounds like an awesome opportunity, Taylor. Obviously, we've talked about it a lot. The town of Lexington, Massachusetts is a very well-run community and very well-respected, and I know that they have a lot of public engagement, so having a skilled communications director is, I'm sure, at the top of their list, and I know that they got one. So let's take a trip down memory lane and think about the things that you've worked on while you've been here in Shrewsbury. So just take us back. So you started in the spring of 2021, late or early summer of 2021. We were in the strange times of almost thinking we were done with COVID. So what were you hired for? So let's give us the education recap and how we brought you on board here in Shrewsbury.
Like the full education recap?
Sure.
Or like, okay.
Well, not year by year, but just, no parties.
No, I got you. We'll keep it strictly business. So I did my undergraduate at Merrimack College between 2016 and I was lucky to graduate in the spring of 2020 during COVID.
Sure.
Which there was a lot of other career paths I had in mind during that time, but obviously like people were not hiring at all for jobs. And I went back and forth about doing like a graduate program like back to back from undergrad. Like there's always like the pros and cons of like waiting to get your master's after getting some more like real professional experience, but there's also the pros of like doing it back to back because you kind of still are in that like student mindset of being used to like doing papers every week, like reading textbooks, writing summaries, sitting through 4-hour classes multiple nights a week. So with the kind of professional opportunities limited and like still like not really sure of what I wanted to do, I decided to go get my master's. I knew that one of the things I was interested in at the time, and like still think is a great like career path, was nonprofit management. And Merrimack College's Masters of Public Affairs program covered both like nonprofit side of things, but also obviously local government. Was like the hyper focus of just Massachusetts local government and the different levels and things that go into public administration. The other part of it was they offered the unique opportunity to get some of that like professional experience like while I was doing my studies there, through like a fellowship. So I spent not a full year but close to a year with the town of Middleton, Massachusetts, as their like management fellow. So I kind of got to shadow their town administrator, Andy Sheehan, during that time. Got to work on a bunch of different cool projects. Like they were proposing like a capital improvement project for like a municipal campus. So I got to help like develop the website for that, or the web page for that project. So I got to learn some of the tools that I got to use here in Shrewsbury, and ended up really like enjoying my time working in local government, and realized that that was like the path forward for me. And I remember being in my public budgeting class, and I think it was like April of 2021, and I was just like on my computer because we were doing online class, and I looked at the MMA job board, and the Shrewsbury principal department assistant position was posted for the office of the select board and town manager. And I applied because that really piqued my interest. It had the communications aspect, which a lot of my like independent studies, like my capstone was focused on communications and local government and the ways that like we can adopt private techniques to like the public sector to improve our engagement, build trust and transparency with the communities we serve. So that was really exciting that one line in that job description kind of had the communications part of it. And so actually, I think it was the other position. I applied for Justin's original job. I applied to be the admin, and then the principal appeared during that period. And we were like, I was like, this interests me more because of that communications aspect. So started with the select board focused job at the time, the Board of Selectmen. Very weird interview process just because it was fully remote, but then that ended up kind of becoming the new normal for interviewing at that time. And now we're here. We did a lot in between now and then.
Well, yeah, definitely a lot between that. So you came on board. You're supporting the select board. You're supporting the town manager. We didn't have a formal communications program.
Nope.
We were in the earlier days, to be honest with you, of really developing a robust, centralized social media presence and communication platform. We were initiating 2 different types of strategic plans. One, a communication focused one, and then a broad, the 2030 strategic plan, the outcome, which is the 2030 strategic plan. So those early days in the office, what did you spend the majority of your time doing, even if it wasn't communications?
Yeah, I think thinking back, it was split between managing the select board was always like just a big part of that job. There's so many different materials that pass through that board that we need to prepare for them to make sure they're making well-informed decisions, giving them the full context of everything that's coming in front of them. And it was like honestly a big learning curve at the same time. And I was super lucky that you and the chair at the time was John Samia really like pulled me in to get all of that learning experience straight away, which wasn't traditional for that role, but I think being exposed to so much early on gave me more motivation to continue to develop, knowing that there was way more for me to learn besides like open meeting law and like customer service aspects of things. So it was a lot of that. It was honestly the opportunity you gave me of like kind of being at the forefront of managing the strategic planning process was an amazing opportunity for me because I got to see that from us putting the RFP together to selecting the consultant that helped us through that process to the surveying of the community to the eventual like development and implementation of the plan. I think is like not like a rare experience, but like not many people have the experience of like starting one from scratch, being the first one, and seeing that through. And I got to do that within my first, like, I think it was literally my first month. You were like, hey, here's this project. Can you help me with this? And kind of got pulled in from there. So I think like the early exposure to these maybe like higher level special projects enhanced my experience and like made me feel valued and like my opinions mattered even as like a department assistant, because I think no matter what part of the organization you're in, you offer valuable feedback and perspective to things that people that are stuck in the big picture don't always see. And I think that's always an important perspective that I try to use with whatever work I'm doing. So like I think those were the big parts of my time, was like getting to know the community right off the back through that process, which then later on helped me with all the communications work I do now.
So one of the things that I think is important to underscore from your experience and, you know, potentially others is, you know, those folks that are out there maybe, you know, pursuing their bachelor's degree, finishing up their bachelor's degree, finishing up their master's degree, as was your case, is looking at the kind of the central leadership offices of the organization and realizing the broad experience that you're going to get from a title that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise pursued.
Yeah.
You know, that you maybe you weren't hoping for, right? Like, I don't know that when you're going through your master's program, you're like, oh, I can't wait to find the administrative assistant's role or a title called principal department assistant, but that home office location of being able to work directly with elected officials and directly with senior central staff provides a different experience, maybe ones that someone maybe hasn't considered, but they may want to go back and rethink. What are your thoughts?
That was one of the pieces of advice like Andy gave me when I was applying to jobs. He was like a great resource because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what should I be looking for? Where should I be looking? And he was like, I started out doing like conservation stuff. Like, you just want to get your foot in the door in any of these organizations. He was kind of like the manager office roles are kind of rare, to be honest, of like those opening up for at that level, because people either stay for a really long time or they grow into that role, it seems like, across Massachusetts. So I felt lucky that the principal department assistant, or for me it was the admin assistant role, popped up, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be kind of in the middle of the organization. I'm going to get to touch like a lot of different things. Like the manager's office kind of acts like I feel like almost like the backbone or spine of the organization. Like we're connected to all the different departments. Like if something doesn't work out when a resident is interacting with another department, like it usually comes back to us, and we kind of serve as that like central like problem solving resolution like facilitators for the towns that we work for. And I think that getting like that, like I said, like the getting your foot in the door, being the admin assistant, like learning everything you can learn in those first couple years ends up being more valuable later on, even if it wasn't what I was like expecting. I didn't know what to expect.
Sure.
Like, whatever, like admin assistant, but I'm in the manager's office. Like we're going to learn whatever we can learn. And then that will set you up later on to be able to take those next steps in your career and have all that valuable like background information. But I think the caveat to that though is that I was going into that as a 22-year-old. I started here when I was 22. So having an admin assistant as my first job out of college, like that was a lot more, I think, digestible for me than being like maybe mid-career, having gone back to school to get my master's in public administration, like looking to do like a career change, I don't like the admin assistant might not be like the biggest sell for that group of people. Which I think is like one of the not issues we're having in local government, but like we're running into a situation where I think more people retiring or leaving than coming in, and it's like you kind of have to figure out what that in between looks like to pull people back into the public sector to work.
So you talked about we worked on what I'll call a hyper community engaged strategic plan. So we spent a lot of time in your first year to 18 months directly engaging with the public. We had strong support from Raf Tellis and the team there to build our strategic plan with the community. We had over 3,300 unique interactions with residents during that time, and as you said, developed the town's first comprehensive strategic plan. You're right, you did that a lot earlier in your career than I did it in mine, but we did it at the same time. So those are the unique opportunities that I think come, whenever you're seeking out, the roles, and you can land yourself within, again, the central leadership aspect of the organization. So we also focused a lot on a strategic communications plan, and we partnered with the Collins Center on that, which led to the communications coordinator position, and that was a direct outcome of that. So what's your recollection of the general 2030 strategic plan, the strategic communications plan, and the priorities that were established through both of those plans for building, maintaining, growing trust with the community through professional communications?
Yeah, I think also during that time it was just like a more, and it still is now, like just a more common theme in local government, and like a lot of communities across like all different parts of the country and the world like want that higher level of communication and engagement from like their government officials, whether that's your administrative people like us or their elected officials like the select board. That higher level of like information sharing was kind of a driving force, I think, behind both the engaged and connected like strategic planning area and also just the communications plan as a whole. The communications plan definitely prioritized having that central person to lead those initiatives, whether it was like consolidating social media platforms was one of the recommendations from that, which we did. Looking at print publications more so, and that was like another big part of what we heard back in the strategic plan of like the desire to have like some sort of print newsletter that's mailed out, because not everybody is online or wants to be online, and being able to reach people in a multimedia way was a big takeaway from both plans, which that obviously became a forefront in the work that I was doing, figuring out a way to balance the different types of medias, the frequencies that we're using, that we're publishing information, and kind of how to cover all of our bases from a daily to a weekly to a monthly to quarterly and annually basis of what level of information people want to access. And I think that was just the biggest theme overall, was just like that access to information and giving people whatever level of information they want to engage with. Like if they want just the quick and short 3-sentence summary, like that's there for them. If they want to dive into the whole like 20-slide presentation or 100-page document, like that's there for them too. Everyone has like a different ability to engage with their local government and desire, honestly. Not everybody cares to engage, and that's okay. It's not their full-time job, it's our full-time job, and we just need to be there if they want to. Sure. And do what we can to make those touch points in the community.
So there was individual strategies within that communication plan, many of which you've just laid out, but we really focused on centralizing communication, and that didn't mean that the town manager's office was the only thing that communicated. What I see from that is unifying and professionalizing how we communicated. So forms of content and branding come to mind. Let's talk about your work in those areas and what it means to you to have a strong central communication strategy.
Yeah, so the local government, like communications, branding was what I did my capstone on during grad school. I think no matter what, branding is important, whether you are like a private company or a local government. You want people to see the stuff that's coming out from the town and know it's the town of Shrewsbury and not just like a spam account like posting that XYZ road is closed or, oh, this is the new way to pay your tax bill is through the like, you know what I
Sure.
mean? Like
Yeah,
you want your communications to come off as professional and official, and in a consistent manner, because that not only looks better and more professional, but it's also building trust with the people you're communicating with. Like they know when they see like our different shades of blue and green and teal, like that's the town of Shrewsbury that's sending that out. It's not someone trying to like steal their money by telling them this is where to pay your tax bill now. And so like establishing like a strong identity as a town makes those transitions that affect those like daily operations a lot easier, because if we were just sending out, because that's what we did, we had the transition from was it Unibank payments to City Hall Solutions became our new like portal for online payments. We established that trust of like, this is the town of Shrewsbury, not somebody else telling you where to pay your tax bill. And by having that like strong backing of like our brand identity, it makes people like not feel like they need to question the information they're getting from the town. And I think that again translates to that building of trust and transparency, and allows us to do more unique things. And then when you do start branching off to like recreation and like Council on Aging have their own Facebook pages, like those are still consistent throughout their publications too. They get a little bit more leeway with their fun flyers, but you still know that those themes are coming from the town of Shrewsbury and not just a random account.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it has been, I mean, you cited the financial transitions that we've done, and it that has been one of the most profound ways that you can show people have trust in local government is when you can make those transitions, get more users on the new system. And a lot of it has to do with those aspects of communication that are more subtle, but build confidence and trust in local government. So moving away from communication specifically, what's a project that you've worked on, whether it's communications related or not, that maybe folks haven't heard about from you? You know, anything come to mind, something further behind the scenes or just not communications direct that people maybe haven't heard you talk about yet?
I'm trying to think. I talk a lot. I'm a yapper. I don't know, like is it like Shrewsbury Way,
Sure.
like Resident Academy?
Yeah.
Like we just wrapped that up like a couple weeks ago. And it was 4 weeks of I was honestly so happy and ecstatic like watching those classes unfold with the participants we had and the department heads kind of getting to brag and share about their department that people might not know about, and just seeing how engaged the residents were and the feedback we got once we did the evaluation afterwards of them like really valuing the time they spent with us and that they found those couple hours they spent over those 4 weeks being truly valuable and getting what they wanted out of that. And that project's been definitely tough because it's one that I think it's probably one of the only projects I've done here that kind of kept getting pushed off for variety of reasons of like the class was too long, like no one wanted to commit to doing 10 weeks or 8 weeks, like of having to just kind of constantly like modify and rework that framework to make it happen. And we found that kind of sweet spot of doing 4 weeks, 3 hours each. and kind of it being a little bit quicker than maybe we originally planned for, but we were still able to bring that to the community. And I'm really proud of that. Like, it didn't go like, it didn't lay out exactly how I imagined it like 2 years ago, but the outcome was exactly everything I could have hoped for, of people feeling like they can get better involved and feel confident in engaging with their government. So that's one I'm proud of. I'm also proud of, like, we're doing a lot of like digitizing of our records in the town manager's office, which is not communications related at all, but like maybe a little bit, because we can produce licenses for our licensees a lot easier now. But it's also allowed us to kind of optimize the space we do have in our office, although it's limited, by not having like multiple filing cabinets of documents anymore. I think has been a bonus for just like our office and staff in general, and kind of still working through that process. But I think that's definitely been an important part of like bringing us into like the modern age of like offices don't really, private sector offices don't really have a lot of filing cabinets anymore. But we had 3 huge ones, and to kind of be able to limit that or bring that space back for people, I think has been huge.
Good. So you've obviously helped us move communications beyond moving forward isn't even saying it enough. We established a communications program. We have more than just a platform. We have a multimedia approach to communications in Shrewsbury. Would you do it all over again? I guess that's the question. What are your thoughts? What surprised you the most? Yeah, well, like what's kind of your big reflection on it? You got to do the town manager download.
Yeah.
You got to establish this podcast. Anything surprise you the most, or advice that you have for folks?
I think the like space I got for like creativity to do this, I think that was the thing that made everything happen. You're definitely always willing to experiment, like doing a podcast and like getting department heads to do that too. I think without that, like none of this works. Like, I think towns that want to establish a communications program have to be willing to take the risk on trying new things. And like, there's things we've done that stopped.
Done a lot of different,
we don't do a monthly brochure anymore because it wasn't, the information, it couldn't be as timely as we wanted it to be. Like, to print something for the month, like things change, dates change, and we stopped doing that because that wasn't utilized widely.
I think that's really important. I mean, we have
just tried. Not like throwing everything at the wall. Like, we do it intentionally, but like there's some things that work and there's some things that don't.
Stop doing it if it doesn't work.
Right. If you don't try it, you're never gonna know. Like, oh, maybe the monthly brochure would have done great in a different town because that's just like their demographic wants to engage that way. But like, it didn't do great in Shrewsbury. But people love a weekly e-newsletter that gives them like 6 to 8 different things going on in towns, different updates from different departments. And that's been embraced widely. Like, we went from not doing that at all, and now we have almost 900 subscribers in the full year now that we've been doing a weekly e-newsletter. And that's something I'm very proud of. Like, we've grown, like, people really like Facebook engagement. They did not really engage with us on Twitter, but like Facebook, I think the number when I started, maybe we're at like 4.7 thousand followers, maybe a little less than that, and now we're at 6,000. Like, that's grown over time because we put our time and effort into something that people want to engage on. No matter how much effort we put into the Twitter account, like, people didn't want to engage there, so we're not going to expend our energy on something that the community doesn't want. Like, our job is to meet them where they are, and you do that by experimenting and seeing what's going to work for Shrewsbury. What do the Shrewsbury residents want when it comes to the information we're sharing? And you don't get that if you're not trying things. And you make the evaluation. You're like, oh, it doesn't work.
Right.
It's not a bad thing. You tried.
Yep. So put on your futurist mindset. So where's the local gov communications going? What's the prediction?
That was one of my interview questions.
Oh, really? Wow. Maybe
Um,
I'll hire you.
maybe. I think it can go in a lot of different directions. Like a lot of what I do is look at what like the private sector is doing. Um, and I learn a lot from them because we're still kind of lagging behind. My joke answer was that like we're gonna have like little like like in Star Wars like little hologram things that are handheld, like that's where we're going. That was my answer.
You still got the job?
Yeah. But it sounds like a cop out to say like I genuinely think that it'll go wherever the residents want it to go. We might not be communicating in the exact same way that the private sector gets to communicate with their audiences because they're more like focused on who their customers are, who they want to get money from basically. Whereas like for us, like we need to be able to engage with anyone no matter their age, demographic information, if they've been in Shrewsbury for 1 year or 20 years. And I think that's how we've been successful. It's just like following kind of what the residents wants, needs, and desires and like aiming to exceed them. I think that's the goal of our office generally, and I think that's how we'll continue to like evolve communications no matter what the town is, like by listening to the wants and needs of your residents. That was the rest of the answer, I guess.
Well, they say the ultimate test in local government is the Athenian Oath, right? The summary of the Athenian Oath is leaving the community in a better place than you found it. So you have beyond exceeded that here in Shrewsbury. So I just have to thank you for everything that you've done to support me and support the town and build strategy and communications and all those good things and working to make it the best local government in the world. So any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunities you gave me here in Shrewsbury, and I've gotten so many kind emails and like tons. Facebook messages and LinkedIn comments from everybody, and I just feel so supported and like glad that the time that I've put into Shrewsbury, how fulfilled I've felt being here and how much I care for the community. Was like seen and valued by other people and not just like in our office, I guess. Like you valuing my work means a lot to me, but it also means a lot that the community valued it too at the end of the day. So
well, Taylor, thanks for taking the final time to provide some career advice to everyone and share your insight and path into local government and upwards in local government, which has been really valuable. So this has been another great episode of the Town Manager Download. I'm Kevin Mizikar on behalf of Taylor Galusha. Thanks for listening.